Now, exercise, I have to acknowledge at the very outset and see if this is true for you, that for many Americans, exercise, despite appearances, is a four-letter word. Many people, when they hear the idea of exercise or working out, they start to kind of get tense. They start to think about, oh yeah, I should do it, I know I should, and yet I don't want to. Right? I don't want to. I'm going to tell you something that might be the single most validating thing anybody has said to you in the last hour. Exercise is completely unnatural. Exercise is completely unnatural. You're not designed to exercise. I'm not designed to exercise. We are designed to be physically active in the service of adaptive goals. The average visitor to Walt Disney World. You been to Walt Disney World? Does it look like a particularly fitness-crazed crowd? Typically not, right? I mean, just average. The average visitor to Walt Disney World has been found by the Disney Corporation to walk between 8 and 9 miles per day during their visit. That is a high level of physical activity. It is almost on par with the fitness level of our hunter-gatherer ancestors. Not quite. Hunter-gatherers have been studied, and they engage in 4+ hours of vigorous physical activity every day. Doing what? Running, walking briskly while they're chasing down food, while they're gathering, while they're erecting dwellings or carrying water. You with me? But it's always in the service of a goal. So what happens when you take, our brains, when it comes right down to it, in most respects are not that different from, say, the brain of any other mammal. So let's take the lowly lab rat. Did you know that just like us, their brains are programmed not to exercise? You know what I mean by exercise? I mean like you're staring at a piece of equipment. You know that horrible feeling of dread you get in the pit of your stomach? You're looking at it. You're saying, I should get up there on that thing. It's a treadmill. It's an elliptical trainer, stationary bike. And there's a piece of your brain that's screaming out, don't do it. You're not going anywhere on that thing. So you take a lab rat, and you can take the lab rat and you can give it, have you ever seen those little exercise wheels? Yeah. Where they can kind of lollygag and stroll at their own pace. They're fine with that. They'll get up on the wheel every once in a while just out of sheer boredom if you don't give them like natural rat things to do, because it's better than just sitting, right? But if you talk about like aerobic level activity, like getting their heart rate up where it needs to be, like they're really, you put them on a treadmill and a harness where they can't escape, you know what they do? They squat down on their haunches and protest till the treadmill starts to wear the fur and then the skin off their backside. They feel our pain when it comes to the difficulty of forced exercise. What this means is, if you think about it, do hunter-gatherers ever turn to their companions and say, hey, I know that we just did 4-hour hunt, but I'm going to just, lace up my, no, I don't have anything to lace. I'm just going to, go out and run a 10K just because. No. Why not? Why would our brain be wired with a program that basically says, never expend calories on an activity unless it's for a purpose? Does it make sense to you?
Conserve energy.
Conserve energy, because our ancestors never had a reliable food surplus. They would have occasional food surplus, but then 6 months down the road, they might have famine, right? So your savings account was the fatty tissue on your body, which explains a lot. And yet, you would never want to squander calories on pointless activity. So how can we take advantage of this knowledge? Well, do we even want to take advantage of this knowledge? Hold that first question for a second. Let's think about the second question. Do we want to take advantage of this knowledge? Well, it turns out that exercise fights depression as powerfully as any known medication. One of my old mentors in grad school at Duke, Jim Blumenthal, has randomly assigned in 2 separate studies severely depressed middle-aged patients to one of 2 conditions. Either Zoloft, you've heard of it, the antidepressant, at a fairly high dose, or exercise. Now guess what kind of exercise? How hard would you have to exercise to change brain chemistry enough to be antidepressant? It was brisk walking.
Oh.
Brisk walking. Walking like you're late for an airplane, you know, kind of brisk, like you're not messing around. You're walking with a purpose. For hours? No. For 30 minutes, 3 times a week. That's it. 30 minutes of brisk walking 3 times a week compared head-to-head with Zoloft, and at the end of 4 months, both groups had an antidepressant response that beat placebo, sugar pill, right? There was no difference between the groups, but when they followed them up 6 months later, the folks who got the Zoloft were 3 times more likely to have had their depression return than the folks who were exercising. How can exercise be antidepressant? Well, it changes neurochemistry. It increases activity in circuits of the brain that use a neurochemical you've heard of called dopamine, which is the key neurotransmitter in the brain's pleasure centers, reward centers. Those are centers that go dormant in depression. Exercise increases functioning in circuits that use a neurotransmitter called serotonin, which you've heard of, which helps put the brakes on the brain's stress response, which helps turn down activity in the brain's emotion centers. You've heard of, some of you, the amygdala, which generates sadness and anxiety and fear. Exercise also has a really nice side effect. It might interest many of you. It slows down the aging process. British researchers have recently shown, did you know that we can look at your DNA? We could just get a little DNA sample, like a Q-tip on the inside of your cheek, a little swipe on the inside of your cheek, get some cells, look at the DNA, and it's like you've got your own tree rings. Really? Did you know you have your own molecular tree rings? They're protective caps on the end of each of your chromosomes. They're called telomeres. They're protective caps. And as we age, they shrink. And you can just look at the age, at the length of these telomeres and get a really, really good guess at a person's chronological age. But guess what? British researchers found that if you took a bunch of middle-aged folks my age, roughly, 40s, 50s, and you looked at the telomere length of 2 sets of middle-aged folks. Group A is the couch potatoes. People that say, my whole adult life, I've been in that vast group of people that just really don't dig exercise. I just, I do what I have to do, but I just don't exercise on any sort of regular basis. Group B, people that work out and have been workout fanatics it was at least 45 minutes a day, an average of six days a week at least, okay? Now, I don't mean to brag or anything, but when I started doing this research, I was not in that latter group. Since I started doing it, I'm in that group. Guess what they found? The people who exercised regularly and had been through their adult life while they were in middle age, their biological age, as evidenced by their DNA, was 10 to 15 years younger on average than the couch potatoes. Have you ever known somebody that was in their 60s or 70s that seemed really freakishly spry? You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever noticed how common it was for that person to have been really physically active through much of their adult life? Have you ever seen, if you don't know who I'm talking about, you need to go look it up on YouTube sometime, Jack LaLanne. Does that name ring any bells? Yeah. The original TV fitness guru. There's a great video of him at age 90 when he looks about 55, 60. He's 90. He looks and moves, holds himself like he's 55, 60 years old, and he's like swimming across to Alcatraz, pulling a tugboat behind him or something. It's crazy. Freakishly youthful. Exercise has all these benefits. Now, here's the thing. If we want to be physically active, we need to remember that exercise is unnatural. You need to remember that image of that lab rat squatting down on its haunches. wearing the fur off its backside. You're like that lab rat, and so am I in many respects. So what can you do?
Find a partner.
Finding a partner often can provide a sense of purpose. Remember, we are designed to be physically active in the service of a goal. The goal will vary from what is a meaningful goal for you may not be meaningful for me, and vice versa. For some of us, I have 2 very highly spirited dogs. Getting out and walking, in fact, I like to run with them, and they love it. They are in heaven. They beg for it. And I feel this warm, toasty glow inside because my doggies are happy, right? That works for me. It might be walking to a destination. It might be just the company of a friend. It might be a game-like activity. Something because hunting is a game-like activity. Gathering is a game-like activity. So if you're doing something that's game-like, that will keep you engaged. My last little point on exercise really quickly is this. Some of you here are battling clinical depression, or you have a loved one. You know somebody who is. When we're clinically depressed, we have a special difficulty initiating activities. Clinical depression turns down activity in the left orbital frontal cortex. It's a part of the brain that allows us to initiate things that we want to do. Does that make sense? In other words, when we're depressed, we can have a thought, I should do that. And then we can't actually make it happen. The part of the brain, how about this, that translates between your intentions and your actions, that part of the brain goes dormant when we're depressed. So some of you are hearing me right now and you're thinking, oh, I should do that. You need someone in your life. For many of us, if we don't have somebody who's reliable, who can give us that little nudge of initiative that we need to make it happen, it can be a personal trainer to get us started. When I started this research 7 years ago, it never dawned on me in a million years that I would be telling people hiring a personal trainer can really make a difference. I've seen dozens and dozens and dozens of lives transformed from that. It's the best money they've ever spent. If I could have 5 minutes with President Obama, I really think I might just bend his ear on how cool it would be if we could have a tax deduction for any money spent on enhancing our fitness. Because I'm telling you what, it would be pennies on the dollar. Whatever tax rebate people got for that, the federal government would get on the back end, multiplied tenfold, 100-fold in terms of savings with Medicare, Medicaid. You see it? So think about spending your money that way. Okay, let's talk about something else. Oh, by the way, Blumenthal in his research shows that in order to be antidepressant, to change your brain chemistry, the activity needs to be aerobic. If you don't know how to take your pulse, I can show you if you want to hang around afterwards. There are lots of tutorials online. To be aerobic, you want to be somewhere between, this says 60 to 85%, that's fine. You get the best results, the research shows, if it's between 75 and 85% of your maximum heart rate. A good ballpark idea for what that is 220 minus your age. So for me, it's about 171 is my max. When I'm working out, I actually wear a heart rate monitor, which you can buy for about $30 online. I wear it when I work out, and I'm looking, and I'm usually somewhere between 140 and 155. I go at it hard. Feels great. It didn't when I started. It does now. Somebody had a question right over here.
Why are your dogs so keen to go out running, whereas lab rats is not so keen on the...
Brilliant question. Because dogs are descended from wolves, which are pack animals that follow an alpha, which is usually one of their parents, that tell them when it's time to go on a hunt. And while we're out running, they are scanning, looking for bunnies, which they often find, looking for squirrels. And they look to me every single time. They're like, Daddy, can we go eat that one? Can we go eat that one? And you know what? They never tire of it. Even though we've probably run hundreds of times and we've never eaten a single bunny, to my knowledge. Well, actually, Teddy caught a dead one time. But yeah, it's a great question. So for them, it has a purpose. And for me, it has a purpose because I'm making them happy. It's a great